So basically, the reason we are here is that sometime in the month of November, December, we as human coronavirus, which comes from the family of other coronaviruses, SARS, MERS. The disease that this virus spreads is called COVID-19. And up until a few minutes ago, the total tally of cases around the world is approximately 625,000 and 29,000 deaths. The organization has also announced this being a global pandemic, and these are all scary things, right? But yeah, I mean, there's one way of looking at it, and I was reading this blog post titled "Common Enemies," which starts with a quote by Frank D. Roosevelt, and he had mentioned he had put this forth before World War II. He said, "We are all of us children of Earth. Grant us the simple: our brothers are oppressed, we are oppressed. If they hunger, we hunger, and if their freedom is taken away, our freedom is not secure." So yeah, drawing a conclusion from that, basically nothing unites people more strongly than a common enemy. And if we actually spend the next, 14, 21, 35, depending on where you guys are, like in lockdown, this will be the biggest case of human coordination in the history of mankind. So we have around amazing people on various backgrounds, different TV journalist, we've got a TV host, we've got 3 TEDx speakers, we've got 2 people from the healthcare industry, we've got award-winning travel bloggers, we've got like a climate activist, we've got a top freelance and fitness coach, and we've got a bunch of entrepreneurs with great experience. And what unites us all is the idea of oneness, the path of global solidarity, as we can say, and those who believe who can like overcome this regardless of, scarce resources or anything. Yeah, we can think of bad that we can. So starting off with the first segment, which is stories. Essentially, we'll be talking about, so there are people on panel who have volunteered to share some of this they have encountered because, directly, indirectly with respect to COVID-19. So yeah, we can start with that. Jennifer, do you want to start first?
Unmute myself. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm Jen. I'm a friend of Pratik. I'm a travel dietitian, and I was just abroad taking a break from some of my contract work, doing some travel for my food and travel blog that I have. I just kind of do this on the side, and we found ourselves in Nepal during kind of the heat of all of this. So Pratik invited me to talk a little bit about our experience in getting back to the U.S. So we were actually hiking the Annapurna circuit, and we had very little phone access and Wi-Fi access. Actually, we had like no Wi-Fi, no phone access for about 3 days, and we had to communicate with other truckers about kind of what was going on back home, what was going on in Nepal, and kind of coordinating, from a government standpoint, what did we need to do, and from a personal standpoint, what we felt was safe for us. We'd heard some warnings that we needed to go back, but there's also, you always meet people who are a little bit more fearful, and then other people are a little bit more relaxed. So it's always hard to figure out kind of where you stand. Yeah. And on about the 4th day, we met a group of German people who had told us that the Nepali government was saying that they were going to close down their borders and that we should leave. So we decided to hire a Jeep and come back, and we actually booked flights for about 5 days out. And then we got an advisory from the American government that we should leave even sooner. So we booked another flight out for the next morning. We headed to Kathmandu and we flew out, and thankfully all of our flights went ahead. But apparently the next day was the day when they stopped doing any international flights. And once we got to Istanbul, about 90% of flights were canceled. So it was pretty much a miracle that all of our flights went through and that we made it back to the US. But it was really just in the nick of time that we did that. I have some friends now who are still stuck in Nepal, and they are also on lockdown. And I'm just very happy that we were able to make it back to the US, where this is home base for us.
Yep, thanks a lot, Jen. I know because we were in the middle of, we were in India when we were like listening to the stories coming out of China, and I'm super happy that you're back home. And this is it's good. Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, of course.
You wanna? Thanks.
Pratik, your voice is breaking.
Yes, your voice is breaking a little.
Okay. Is it good now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So Pratima, do you wanna?
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? I think you've gone on mute.
No, it's fine.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. All right. Hi, I'm Protima Tiwary. I'm a freelance content writer and a blogger, fitness blogger. I've been doing this for the last 7 years, so my work has been remote, and thing is, not much has been affected in terms of my routine because I've been working from home and working out at home. But it's been a little too sudden for the businesses, I feel, because I have clients all over the world, and apart from the healthcare industry and fitness industry, all the other work has stopped. And because I'm a little particular about my investments and everything, so those things are fine. But I know there are people who are just starting off. There are people who just quit their jobs. People who have, who work in the US, who have come to visit their families in India, and now they can't go back. I know so many people who have lost their jobs. So in fact, it was a fun poll that I did on Instagram, saying that, okay, are you still working from home, or there's no work, things like that. And the number of conversations that started around it, and they were all sad because everyone's panicking. And honestly, I think everyone's just dealing with financial instability at this point, which is just adding to the general anxiety. And obviously, losing a job or losing a project, even if you have 10 projects, even if one of them goes, it's still really scary. And I think that's where 80% of us are at. And even, personally, I am changing my billing cycles. Things that were moving in on a 30-day cycle are probably being shifted to 45 days. If this is only a 21-day lockdown, we'll have to, those kind of things have kind of put us in this situation where, this is not something I'm figuring this out on the job, because I don't think anything could have prepared me for this. And it's money, and it's not just me. I'm working with other people. I have to pay them. I get paid by clients who now suddenly don't have a functional business. When are they going to get back? No one knows. Right now, I'm just kind of feeling happy about the fact that, okay, one day this will all be fine. I know maybe in May, in June, this will all come back. There are people who have lost their jobs. Companies have shut down. So, and I'm doing whatever I can to, in fact, help them. So I know, Pratik, you shared something, still hiring. I think you shared that, and I sent that to a lot of people, because I feel, we have to be there for each other at this point, because yes, we are home, and we need to deal with all the loneliness, anxiety, all of that. And in all that, you're paying your rent, bills, everything, and then you still, you don't have a job then. And it's just adding to the anxiety. It's not, I don't have happy news here.
So I guess Pratik is missing here. Zeba.
Yeah.
Pratik, are you there?
Pratik.
Hey guys, yes, I'm here.
Yes.
I'm having some issues with my internet. So, yeah, I think I lost the last part. Like,
Your voice is
I mean,
breaking.
I did grasp, you were saying something about stillhiring.org. Oh, okay. This is.
Yes. So basically, I mean, yeah, that's kind of where I ended. We just have to be together as a community because I feel right now people are just really tense with the whole job situation, and yet they're still paying their rent and bills and all of that. And you know, you still, I mean, at the end of it, if you end up losing a job, it's yeah.
So Pratik is struggling with the internet, I guess.
I'll
So
just,
Yogesh, I guess the format was to actually put forth the story. So Shubham shared his story, right?
Yeah.
And Protima also shared now. So I guess should,
Yeah.
because on the other
Yeah.
side we have participants, the
Yeah.
attendees.
So I think we can continue then. We
Now
have the word of.
so I checked the agenda right away, and Shubham has a story to share.
Sure.
Shubham?
Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Shubham and I'm a mobile journalist from Delhi. So right now we run an organization called Plug TV where we basically train people on how to tell stories from their mobile phone. So I just want to share one story that recently we did. Because of the 21-day lockdown which was announced suddenly with the Modi government, which is very necessary. But at the same time, many communities are not able to get basic necessities. And at the time of crisis, journalists are also struggling to go on field and reporting that crisis. So what we are trying to do is trying to get stories from communities itself. So yesterday we did a story about a waste pickers colony is not getting water. Simple things like water, if they are not getting, refugee people are not getting food and water because they are not they don't have Aadhaar card, they don't have ration card, so they can't get food from anywhere else. So people telling their own stories, and we are getting responses that the communities who living around there, like said, like neighbors, they are helping uh, them to get water, the basic necessities. So I think at this time stories and people telling their stories are really working. I think this is a time where communities are actually helping each other, and I think the best thing which is coming right now is people respecting each other and treating each other so well that without any coordination, as Pratik in the starting said, in the world, the level of coordination the world is doing right now, it's fabulous. So I just wanted to share this community that stories are creating such impact and people telling their own stories. So I think this small device is changing a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. True.
So just to add something to Shubham's
Awesome.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So past 48 hours, one of my friend, he's a developer, and he reached out to me saying that in the pandemic situation, we should actually think about some community efforts, or we should surely think about creating something, right? So on my back, there's a whiteboard which is full of the ideas that we came up with. We have taken a challenge for 96 hours, and we are creating a portal that's gonna start with the tribute section, then every data, what's happening around the world, but our main focus is India. So a couple of things that we are doing is the organizations and NGOs who are strongly working in the situations, we are giving a complete section for them. We are also putting a button where we can actually locate the nearby testing centers. Similarly, one section is for news where we have decided that we'll only keep 10-20 strong sources, medical organizations, healthcare organizations, which are actually putting sensible reports, because WhatsApp forwards has been becoming a bigger and bigger challenge. So I'm parallelly working on two things. So, okay, so I haven't introduced me yet. So I'm building something called the blockchain school to actually tackle the issues about supply chain, chain demand and stuff, right? Supply demand issues. So while doing education, while doing technologies, I suddenly came up with something that right now the challenge that is getting bigger and bigger. So my point was to actually discuss more about the anti-fragile business models that I'll be coming up with in my section for 2-3 minutes. But current need is community efforts. A lot more volunteers need to come closer. Startup India have just posted about hunting for volunteers. So like organizations like with which Shubham is working, I've been looking at their stories for a long time now, and these people are actually reaching out to the corners of India, so the last mile kind of thing where actually everybody can't reach out. So they're walking on the streets, collecting stories. Here, the bigger issue is the people who are actually collecting stories or actually creating the content also has a bigger challenge in terms of or fear in terms of the virus or the issue, but still they are putting a lot of effort. So I think that there should be something where we can actually appreciate them in some of the other ways. It's not always about monetary things, but that's where the first thought came up to us, is like the first page should go completely to be the tribute section for everybody who's working in such situations. So that was from my side. Who is actually coming up with the next story? I guess Pratik is not here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Hey guys.
yeah,
I'm
Okay.
back,
Okay.
I
Sure.
guess. Yeah,
Oh,
I
hi.
think so. I I think this is working. I have like 2 internet connections and both are like really not in my favor. But yeah, I
No
guess I'm
issue.
back.
You're
Yeah.
having your own backstory.
Okay, so I just I did hear Shubham talk, and that's super inspiring what Shubham is doing. I've been following Shubham for almost a year now. We met in New York, and since then, yeah, he's been relentless. Shubham, like this, I think you've been covering everything, right? Like from AQI to I don't know, like climate change to everything, basically. So
Yeah.
awesome, great stuff, Shubham. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so we run India's largest climate change sustainability channel called Let Me Breathe, and today we release a documentary on what happens during the November pollution. So today at CNA we released a documentary today.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's like an
Great.
amazing
Thanks a lot,
initiative by Shubham
Shubham.
Gupta.
Hey, yeah, Pratima, you have something to share?
No, I was just saying, wow.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a couple of more stories in this segment. Nikita, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I hope everyone's safe, everyone's families and relatives and friends are safe. I congratulate Pratik on this initiative. It's wonderful to connect, connect with everybody right now. So
That's
for
true.
me personally, the quarantine period started really early. Like can you hear me?
yes.
Can
Yes,
everyone hear me?
Yep, yes.
So this is actually my 3rd week home because I caught an allergic cold and then I had to keep myself away from moving around and going to work. So initially it was very difficult to really stay put at home, and I went through those blues, and then now I've kind of settled down. What's happening on work front is I work as a brand strategist with an e-commerce company, and it's not good. On the business front, it's not good. So currently my days are structured at quite a contrast actually. So they begin on the work front where we are constantly trying to understand how we can really make the most of this time. And my advice has been to take customer feedback and reflect on what we've been doing and build a long-term strategy on the brand level, then because we cannot focus on sales. And we're trying to take this positively and focus on taking initiatives as a brand that on the branding front than the day-to-day operations. So, but there's a lot of anxiety overall on the work front, I would say. But at the same time, there are times when I find myself absolutely at peace and doing and working on my personal projects. So actually, in this few days and 2-3 weeks that I've stayed home, I've managed to collaborate with a partner and build a project that was probably due for a long time, and we'll be launching it soon. I also find myself writing a lot, something that had taken a backseat in the past decade. Although always wanted to do it, working used to kind of take up my mind space, and there is this mixed emotion of being grateful, like finding the best of looking at the bright side, I would say, and at the same time struggling on the economic front as we go ahead in our work life. So that's how it's been for me. Yeah, so that's my story. Is Pratik there? I'm sure it's like that for most of you as well. Like there is a mixed emotion here.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. In
different
fact,
things
I mean,
happening.
So shall I go? Shall I go with your story about cybersecurity too?
Yeah,
So I would
sure.
just like to add out a kind of work with Shubham sir and Saurabh sir, what they actually highlighted upon the coronavirus and how the only a single mobile phone is changing out the world now. So I have a team to share out something. I have a words which I would just like to highlight right now. So that is, I am a 17-year-old boy from Delhi, Dipanshu Parashar.
Mm-hmm.
At 17, I am a Google certified IT specialist and a TEDx speaker. And along with this, I am running up my own venture, that is the cyber agents. What we guys are just doing is, there are a lot of cyber frauds which are like tremendously increasing in India, right? So I have made up an investigation team by highlighting out or by selecting out very selective people from all across the nation, and now we are helping out these cyber victims for free all across the nation. So I would just like to highlight one thing which can be so much beneficial for all the panelists and all the listeners who are just watching out live on YouTube too. So the thing is that in these coronavirus days, there are a lot of scams which are arising on Facebook, on Instagram, and they are just like claiming out to provide you a kind of a kits or to provide out your valuable information, but in return they are asking you for the personal information. So that's how right now with Indian government, I'm working upon a project, and this gonna be much beneficial for Indian society as well as for the international society too. And what we are doing is we are setting up honeypots, something on social media where we will be able to track the hackers and the attackers or the scammers who are actually making these kind of scams or threatening you out. So that's a kind of an initiative we guys are taking out. So yeah, that's all from my side.
Next. Yeah. Thanks,
Awesome.
Dipanshu. I think
A quick question:
I lost on Nikita's story. Yeah. Sorry.
how are we
Go ahead. So
connecting this with the quarantine thing, Dipanshu?
Yes, sir.
How
Yeah,
how
can you repeat
how
that?
is how is the product like? How are you relating it to the quarantine lockdown, or are you going to involve many people since they are at home, or how? Do you have a plan regarding that?
Yes, sir. I have a plan. What we are actually working on. So I was just coming across like I'm just belonging out to a domain of cybersecurity. So getting up a lot of reports and the scams like just because of coronavirus. Right now, even I'm not having out a access since I'm just going live with mobile phone. So sorry with that. But yeah, the point is that there are a lot of scam reports which I'm continuously getting requests to. So why I'm just highlighting this fact is that we have created up a portal that is report.thecyberagents.com, where anyone can go to this particular portal and can report out the cyber fraud, and we as an investigation team will be helping out the cyber victim for free. So this was a kind of a plan or schedule I just planned out for the log day duration, and apart
Okay.
from that, just getting out few
Okay.
of the courses there.
Thanks a lot, Dipanshu. That makes sense. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
awesome. Thanks a lot, Dipanshu. I think I missed out on Nikita's story as well, but I know what she's currently doing. So great stuff, Nikita. Uh, we've got a last story from Jeanette, who's joining in from LA. Jeanette, do you want to go next?
Yes. Hi, everyone from Los Angeles, from lockdown in Los Angeles. Let's see, where do I start? I've been on quarantine since I got back from Egypt. I was in Egypt earlier this month, and I made it back just in time before things really started to get started to happen in US before any of the travel bans, restrictions, any of that. And I have just by choice been home alone. And professionally, as I work in travel, I'm a journalist. I've been covering travel for 10 years. And I've been working on a travel show. I wrote a travel show last year and I've been pitching it, and that's at a halt. As the travel industry is kind of at a halt right now, understandably so. So professionally, like others, a lot of things have been canceled or postponed postponed. So I am finding other ways that I can be of service using my skills and how I can, keep people value and optimistic, because one day travel will be back. And I feel like once this, there's a solution to this, I feel like we're all going to be inside for so long. We're going to want to travel safely and happily. So I definitely want to keep that optimism and hope there. Personally, I have been struggling, not like being alone. I'm happy being alone, but I've never experienced this like many of you, a global pandemic, and I keep track of the news, but I try to balance that out because I'm also an empath. So I really am hypersensitive, and I can pick up a lot of the collective fear and panic. And if I don't be careful, it will affect my own emotion and my own mental, emotional. Mm-hmm. So I try to balance with being informed, but, being healthy, because I feel like it's really important for us to find that balance, and especially since we're all going through the same thing. This is a great way to be of support and connect to each other, because we're all going through this around the world. So yeah, I guess that's my story.
Sure. No, thanks a lot, Jeanette. Yeah. So you had to add, you wanted to add something?
Pratik, this is
Yogesh. Oh, Yogesh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of, chip in with one last story, if there's still space to. So,
go ahead.
I live in the UK. The area where I live, for about 250,000 people, there are about 150 people already. So we are amongst the top 5 hotspots in the UK for coronavirus cases. Today, I've completed 3 weeks of working from home, practically only stepping out 1 or 2 times in last 3 weeks. Obviously, I think from personal front, this is not the easiest of periods, but couple of years ago, our organization started move to becoming fully digital. From a work itself perspective, I've seen no difference whatsoever. So, the principle of working from home is so well embedded that we've pretty much been able to carry on as normal. Now, you'd appreciate that during these times, the last thing that needs to go down is your mobile network, because that would mean that the last few people who are able to work will no longer be able to work as well. And fundamentally, I think, this is where governments need to realize that, you can't let a sector like communications, which is now becoming, I'd say, something like a fundamental need for everybody. You've got to ensure that, the competition is there and the industry is thriving, so that at moments like this, all of us can have crystal clear connectivity, and we can go around our daily business and daily life just as it needs to be. I tell you a story. When you are presented with adversity of this nature in Italy, you'd know that much before UK went into a lockdown, it had a great impact. Our colleagues have been working from home. This week, our CEO showed us all a video that was shot by our colleagues in Italy, and I've heard about how marketing teams have been impacted, brand teams have been impacted. So the video was actually shot by people working out, doing things inside their homes. The advertisement was conceptualized by people working at home. It was shot by people working at home, and it was edited by people working at home. It was released by people who were working at home. And our CEO sent that to everyone saying, when we have a situation like this, and if we think outside the box, technology can present great solutions like this. And it's just one of those things, really.
Yep. Yeah. True. No, it's truly touching. Yeah. Okay. So no, thanks a lot, Yogesh, for sharing your story and yeah, I mean the stuff that you guys have been doing. So that's really great. I've been following it on like different channels, and I'll share that video in the show notes once we have this on YouTube. So thanks a lot, Yogesh. Moving on. Moving on. Let's get like deep dive into the topics for today. And the first one is helping hospitals, and I think it's one of the most sensitive topics. At the same time, the healthcare industry as we speak. Whatever I've seen, like on the internet, through different like videos and whatever, as we speak, is going through a lot of overwhelm. I mean, I don't know. I mean, my internet is really bad, but there's a video of like 20 seconds I wanted to show you guys of a doctor who's in Michigan, and she. Yeah, let me just show that video. So that'll be that'll
Sure.
probably get you guys a better idea. Okay, cool. Hopefully this works. Let me.
Oh yes, I saw this one. I saw this one yesterday.
Oh, you did? Okay, awesome. So I'll just play this, and yeah, I mean, what she's saying is, okay, I don't know. I'll put this in the show notes later. But what basically what she's saying is she just put a couple of people, like old people, on vent, and the situation there, and this is Michigan, by the way, the situation there is almost like a war zone kind of a situation. And thinking about it globally and the implications, no matter what the best healthcare system that your country has, it is going to get, I don't know, I mean, yeah, it's not going to survive, or it's not going to make it at this point in time. There's a lot of good things happening as well at the same time. It's not just grave situations, and thankfully we've got a doctor on this live stream who's a clinical fellow at DICE, Digital Innovation and Consumer Experience, and works at Thomas Jefferson University and hospitals in Philadelphia. Tiffany, thanks for tuning in, and this is like super last minute, and thanks Sarika for making this happen. Tiffany, do you want to kickstart with this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course. Hey guys, I hope everybody's staying safe during this time. I know it's really trying on the healthcare systems and even on just our mental health. Being indoors all the time is not fun. I work as, I'm a doctor, but I currently work as the clinical lead for the artificial intelligence lab here at Jefferson at DICE. And it's been 24/7 round the clock for us. I know a lot of you guys have already shared a lot of stories. So rather than, giving you guys talking to you about what's happening, I kind of want to talk about what we're doing to make it a little better. So let me hit upon first some of the challenges that the frontline are facing. Right off the bat, and I'm not saying anything particularly new, is shortage of equipment. Doctors, and this is even coming from information from my friends in India as well, who are working in hospitals all across India. They don't have basic surgical masks. Not the N95s, they don't even have surgical masks. So they are working in the ORs with masks that they've had on all day, which is a terrible risk to patients and to themselves, as well as people who are working on COVID wards are working with masks that they've had on all day, making it, again, a risk to themselves and to other patients. But on the flip side, there are some really cool things that are happening. A lot of companies across the globe, which traditionally did other things like created perfumes or, were making textiles, they are now flipping over their businesses to kind of start creating tools for doctors. So for example, if I'm not mistaken, Dolce & Gabbana, or one of the big perfume brands.
LVMH.
Yeah, they've started producing hand sanitizers. So it's really wonderful to see how businesses are optimizing what they're doing for the current environment. We're here at Jefferson, we've kind of deployed some amazing tech tools to really help us with this process. I think right now our biggest gold medal tool right now is our telehealth systems. So telehealth, for those of you who don't know what it is basically video chats with a doctor. So say you're at home, you have a fever, you have a cough. It could just be the flu. It could be COVID. Going into the hospital just increases your risk of contracting it, as opposed to actually being a solution. So what telehealth is doing is helping to kind of act as a buffer zone between those 2 points. So when you call into a doctor, I can talk to you because it's not going to be any different if I If I hear that you have fever and I hear that you have a cough, I can triage you and tell you, hey, you know what? Don't come into the hospital. Give it a couple more days. You'll feel a little better. If you don't feel better, and if this or this or this happens, then you can come in.
Yeah.
So telehealth has been something that has been magnificent. And another thing that where artificial intelligence is concerned, I know we may have some data scientists on board over here for all of you guys who want to participate. Kaggle, in association with the White House and with the Allen Institute of AI, are holding an open data set AI challenge, which is something that we are working on right now. Another way that AI has actually helped is a company called Blue Dot and even Health Map, which is based in Boston, actually identified this pandemic as it was growing in Wuhan. So Blue Dot alerted all the government associations saying, hey, there's a spike in pneumonia cases in Wuhan, China, and proving that the technology actually does have great value and great benefit. Irrespective of that, and I'm just trying to run through this real quick, so sorry if I'm talking too fast, but we are also leveraging it for diagnostics. Surgisphere has come up with a great diagnostic tool and a great triage tool for us to be able to identify high-risk patients who are preemptively high risk for COVID, so we know to isolate them as soon as they come into the hospital, as well as triage them to know, okay, well, this patient is well enough to just remain in observation versus this patient is super sick and really needs to be sent to critical care ASAP. It's actually not that difficult for us, even on the ground with our base clinical skills, to be able to tell the difference between that. It's those patients who sit in the gray zone where we're not sure, are they sick enough to be sent to critical care or are they well enough to be kept in observation? That's where the tool is coming into great use. The tool itself has got 95% accuracy, which is magnificent where AI is concerned. Granted, we have noticed a couple of biases in it, but it's better to start somewhere. With respect to mortality risk prediction as well, which is prediction of a patient's chance of dying, we've been leveraging those tools to also determine how sick someone is. And it's a really fun thing. There's a VR company that's actually been deployed in the UK to help train doctors and nurses on COVID response. So rather than, taking a physician out of their practice and, having to spend their time training, we just put VR headsets on them and can rush train doctors, and especially senior doctors who've been out of practice for a while, or junior medical students who are being now leveraged in Italy and in other countries to come in and start working. It's really good to speed train them. For chatbots. So a lot of chatbots have been deployed in various different hospitals that are capable of making telehealth appointments super quickly and actually triaging patients in a chatbot questionnaire. Again, freeing up physicians to be on the ground to help with actual procedures that are required. There are some amazing companies 3D printing ventilators, which is just mind-blowing to me, and I think that is fantastic that they're leveraging this technology to, kind of increase things, to increase our resources. And just to I know through a lot out there, we're also, and this is for a lot of you guys, and I saw in the chat that people were concerned about WhatsApp fake news passing around. WhatsApp is encrypted end to end, so it's really hard to actually get in there and stop. But on Facebook, on Instagram, and even on TikTok, AI is being leveraged really heavily to flag misinformation that's being spread around. So that's been really fantastic to see. And just to kind of tie this up in the end, if you are a data scientist and you've always wanted to work in healthcare, which historically has got a lot of barriers to entry, or you're anyone who's working in technology and wants to develop tools for healthcare, healthcare has always been very resistant because of the legal implications of the technology. But now is the time to really, really try and make the change, because everything and anything that you are doing will be expedited and will have a chance to be tested. So if you want to make a change, in healthcare, now is the time to get on the ground and actually start helping everybody out. That's it for me.
Awesome. No, thanks a lot for that, Tiffany. I mean, great tips. And at the same time, things are moving fast. I also was following the news, the US Department of State enabling visas for medical students or medical professionals from around the world who can just get the visa and get into the States and help whatever patients and just be a part of the ecosystem.
Address that. On the 20th of March, which is last Friday, was Match Day in the US. So that residencies were announced all across the globe, like those people who have gotten into their residency programs. And the immediate, and you're right, Pratik, the immediate fear was, well, how are we going to get to the US? Like, how are we going to be able to do anything if we're all stuck in our countries? But you are right, they're expediting the visas like crazy. And it's kind of sad because when you think about getting into residency after slogging your butt off for a whole bunch of years, you don't expect that your first job would be dealing with a global pandemic. But yeah, it's kind of crazy, but at the same time, it's also a way to really, really get your wheels rolling. And we took an oath to help people, and so that's what we're all trying to do our best. So I think hats off to all the healthcare workers and clinicians who are putting themselves at risk to help us. And I think the best thing that we can do is stay at home so we can help them.
No, absolutely, and thank you for your service, Tiffany. I mean, you're doing some great stuff on your own, so that's great.
Thanks, Pratik.
Hi guys, Abhinav here. I just quickly want to add to what Tiffany just said. The news is kind of more from India. The quantum ventilators, today a tweet went out from Anand Mahindra saying they would be producing ventilators for $7,500, which is roughly 100 USD, which normally in India costs around 1,400 USD, which is around 10 lakhs. So essentially, they are leveraging the existing manufacturing capabilities to kind of expedite all of this at a super low cost. So the another thing was hospitals, Kolkata. Like as you rightly mentioned, 3D printing is being leveraged to kind of make healthcare equipment really fast and made available to hospitals right there. Another thing from Italy, a very unique thing that I saw, and they use scuba mask from the to make a ventilator mask. It works just as fine. It's a mask with a pipe that goes inside the machine, so it gets the job done.
Awesome.
So kind of the point here is we know medical equipment essentially is quite expensive in nature, but I think in the long run, all of these things will kind of help us in lowering down the cost significantly. Because imagine if you can make a ventilator for $7,500, almost every hospital can have one in India, and especially in developing countries. This significantly kind of drives down the cost of medical equipment. Imagining a 3D printer being available across these smaller villages and stuff, that would really be a game changer. Especially imagine this, right now in India there are a lot of villages which are not getting any kind of support. Imagine deploying a unit where you can constantly 3D print out stuff. That's amazing. So maybe you can a good side of this is we'll end up with technologies that kind of help us more. Because this is not the first time, or this won't be the last time we'll face a pandemic of this nature. I hope governments are more open about it moving forward, unlike hiding it
unfortunately,
or whatever. So
So one thing I wanted to chime in on that. So a couple of days ago, I shared it on my Instagram, and this is coming from Tim Ferriss. He just did a very quiet. I mean, I don't know how many of you followed Tim Ferriss here, but the quietest podcast episode ever. He must have produced. So he basically the headline, the title of the podcast was "Helping Hospitals," and in that he mentions this amazing idea. And again, with $10, essentially one ventilator can be used by 4 people, and that, like we said, we're talking about 4x the capacity of ventilators can be increased in less than 10 minutes. So, I mean, even that is something. I mean, I find it fascinating, and I did share it with everyone, those who are in stuff. So I mean, great things are happening, but I mean, just the magnitude at which this ideally needs to happen, I think it's pretty challenging. So,
Pratik, just to add,
Sarika, Soham, go ahead.
Just to add to the video the podcast that you mentioned, which Tim Ferriss did, he has also shared a video where the doctor is showing how it is to be done. The only
Oh yeah, that's
so
right.
I'll share that with you, or probably you will have that link as well.
Yeah, I
But
have the link. Yeah,
but
I'll
the
share it in the show notes.
only glitch, or we have to when we kind of absorb such information, we have to also check whether it has been done before, or how far it has been tested. So in terms of lowering the cost of ventilators or making it 4x, the lady in the video says that it is still not being done on the humans, though theoretically it is done, or it can be done. There are some repercussions about testing it out right now. So I'm not sure if they are working it that way, but nonetheless, it is a good way to collect information and analyze it.
Yeah, New York State, I think, has New York State has, I think, started using one ventilator for two people. This is something that I watched in the news yesterday. Their health minister has said that, okay, I mean, this is something that's possible. So I don't know if they've started it yet or not. I'm not sure about that. But
The governor of New York had asked for about 40,000 ventilators because New York is like one of the biggest hotspots. But President Trump just said, "Why do you need this?" And he tweeted it out, "Why does New York need so many ventilators?" So then they went out and figured out, okay, what's the other way, because federal help was clearly not on the way.
I think at this point, I feel, all of these innovations to be in the pipeline are sort of great indicators. Now, I feel that this is a pandemic we've seen in the for the first time in our lives, but somehow I also feel that this may not be the only one we've seen, which means that the healthcare industry will know what's coming their way. The resource crunch we see all across the world will probably create a completely new industry sector. And I was almost thinking that just like IKEA has made its empire in creating modular furniture that at a very low cost you can sort of create and fit into small places, you probably will now have hospitals which are sort of sold as hospital in a box, modular in nature, which can be produced at speed, mobilized at speed, and kind of spread across the world. It could be a public private partnership wherein government might actually invest in buying those boxes, and then through public sort of investment creates that innovation going. That sort of thing. We as I think hearing everybody around here, I just feel that crisis of this nature, adversity of this nature, humanity will find new ways and newer means of tackling these, but it's a matter of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that point, Yogesh. Sarika, do you want to take it from
Yeah,
here?
I just wanted to jump in and add to what Yogesh just said, that I work as a design researcher with Tiffany at Thomas Jefferson University. And since I got to know about this, and we have been considering what is going to change in design. And at this point, in the past 2 weeks, we were asked to drop everything and focus our efforts on coming up with innovative ideas and solutions for tackling what we are facing, because we work with a hospital and they have some urgent requirements. We literally have to think quickly. And what that made me think about is how design and creativity is responding to crisis, and how people can come up with solutions at a whim. It's the hackathon going on all around the world, and it's pretty interesting to see how people are coming up with low-cost solutions, fast solutions, executing everything. And it while it exposes deficiencies in different industries, it is also exposing all of these efficiencies have been developed everywhere. And it's exciting to see, it's fascinating to see how different industries are developing solutions based on user flows. Uh, Many people mentioned travel industries had to quickly think of ideas to tackle how they're going to refund money, how they're going to add user flows on the websites for people to change their tickets, get refunds. The same is in healthcare. Like Tiffany mentioned, we had to come up with a chatbot which can filter out each and every patient, so that the hospitals don't have as much pressure and burden of every person who's paranoid coming into the hospital. And what I was thinking is, we're designing all these products for the user, and right now that user is a paranoid user, and how can you build something for this user is going to go a long way in terms of thinking for the future. As the industry is completely going to change, we will be coming up with different solutions on how to respond to such a huge pandemic. And it's like, just I'm looking forward to see what comes next after this.
Yeah, thanks, Sarika, for your thoughts. I mean, you're doing great stuff as well. That's so. Yeah, we are short on time. It's 10:30 already, like Pacific, 11 p.m. here in India. I mean, we have like more topics to discuss. I won't stop you guys from going, but those who want to like still continue, yeah, we can probably have this discussion like going on. I mean, do you guys, yeah, what do you guys feel about this?
I think it's just lockdown conversation one. You can always have more. I mean,
oh yeah, we can definitely do that. Yeah.
As long as the communications are up.
Yeah, we can do like I mean, if everyone's
maybe a
okay
couple
with
of more
it, we can
things,
do,
and then
yeah, we can do a continuation maybe.
I'd like to just quickly.
I have a question, especially for people who are in the
yeah,
US.
Neha, you had something to talk about.
Yeah,
I'm
leaving
you're
in
also
like,
running out of time. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm leaving
That's
in
right.
less than 3 minutes. So I'd just like to bring across a point as to what Abhinav said and Yogesh and Tiffany need to drive that point that everything's going to change the way healthcare industry works, the way technology works, but we need to bring our society back down to the basics where these problems began, and they began with policy making, and this all of this comes down to a huge global issue that has not gone away anywhere and is still staring us in the face, and that's climate change, which in the first place brought us to this global pandemic. That is how we got here in the first place, and we now have to grapple with two things at a time, you know, and now we're realizing as a society how what kind of a paradigm shift we all have to go through to adjust and accommodate climate change and its live effects all at once.
Yeah.
Because I guess policies that we made 2 decades ago or 4 decades ago or just a decade ago, and the kind of lifestyle we were you know, accustomed to living due to those policies, and I'm not including just the, you know, just a few people or just a particular community, but all of us together. So there were certain policies made a few decades ago that led us to this problem that we have to bear with it today. So we have to address that first, so that we are capable and able and prepared to face the next pandemics, as Yogesh had mentioned, and what Abhinav had mentioned, that, you know, people in rural parts of the countries and hospitals and healthcare systems who cannot afford the kind of expensive equipment or systems that urban areas are capable of using, and we need to bring down the costs of it. Now, all of this will take place only when we do a lot of policy changes to make sure that this does not happen again, which means we do not have to interfere with wildlife and domestic animals and human beings all intermingling with each other so that, something that is not supposed to be transmitted to a human being comes down to a human being first and foremost. And this is just one example that we are currently forced to live through. We as a society would be very luxuriously and very driven by a privilege, be conveniently be this could have been easily be put aside had it not reached to our own necks, had it not reached to our own convenient cushy lives of lockdown boredoms, or lockdown sort of frustrations that we are so very privileged to go through. We would have forgotten this as much as we have conveniently forgotten that climate change will stare us again, if not for this. So that's the one thing that I'd like to drive a point before we start talking about how we have to redesign or relive our life all over again. We need to look at our lives as far as how our governments all across the world are going to design policies for the coming future, and also accommodate those who have absolutely no say in this, because with or without COVID-19, their lives are, it's those marginalized people in India today who are willing to walk and migrate across state lines all the way to the farthest corners of a country like India, because coronavirus actually does not affect their lives much, because with or without that virus, their lives are any which ways in darkness. So we need to kind of think about those things as well. And that's all I need to say, and I need to leave you at that, and hopefully we can later. Thank you, guys.
No, this is getting recorded, Neha. So we'll be sharing that with you. Thanks for your thoughts. I mean, thanks for being here on this. I know for a fact that Yogesh had brought out a point. In our off the record conversations about earthonomics. Do you want to bring that point up, Yogesh? In sync with what Neha just said.
Absolutely, yes. I think it's almost the right time for humanity to sort of think of economics as earthonomics, and everything that our economy is woven around: buying, selling, the transactions that we all go through day in and day out. You got to sort of look at from the prism of the earth. How much are you actually drawing out of the earth, and how much are you putting back? So I think when we talk about the growth and how world is moving ahead, the economies are growing. Essentially, we only talk about 2% GDP growth, and so on and so forth, bits like that. Now you almost got to sort of reset the balance from human as a consumer to human as a healer of the earth. And I think this is that sort of a time to say, bring everybody on board, have that conversation, and think of the way we are living our lives. Just as a consumer, or are we going to do more than that? Collective responsibility towards sort of reaching climate balance. Are we going to use only what's necessary, use it to its fullest, and then reuse what we can? So if we could sort of look at everything that we do and every day we live sort of with those principles, we could be progressing towards resetting that balance bit. That's sort of
that's a great thought.
Earthonomics, but we'll obviously talk when we've got more.
For sure.
Out of time today.
So we have thanks for sharing those thoughts, Yogesh. We've got 3 people who haven't spoken. So Rohit, Indrajeet, and I know for a fact that you guys are going to be speaking on. I know that you guys know a lot of stuff on mindset and mental health. If you want to take with your own story.
Sure. I'd love to. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. So, as just a disclaimer before we begin, I have been suffering from health anxiety for the past 2 to 3 years. and I have been on medication for about a year. And then I stopped, and my anxiety flared up again in December 2019. So since then, I am on medication, plus I've been seeking therapy as well. So it has helped me immensely in terms of how to cope up with uh, the anxiety pangs that you get when you listen to these kinds of things. So and the second disclaimer is, if you are feeling overwhelmed, or if you think that you cannot manage your anxiety well, or if it is hampering your sleep or daily function, I would highly recommend you speak with a mental health expert. They'll definitely guide you through through these times, because being well in the short run is very important considering how the situation is around us. So yeah, so with that out of the way, I'd like to explain the difference between what anxiety and what fear is. uh,
Sure.
Fear is quite tangible. For instance, if a snake is chasing you and you've turned your fight and flight mode on, so that thing is legit. That fear is legit. But if you are sitting at home and imagining that a snake is chasing you, the same response will be triggered, but it will be it will be anxiety. It's not real. It's in your head. You're worrying about it. Okay, it's not tangible. It's not a tangible fear. But the problem with COVID-19 is that people are getting anxious, but it's not an irrational anxiety. The probability of you catching the getting the disease is, I don't want to scare you, but it is high. It is quite high if you get in touch with if you get in contact with someone who has contacted coronavirus. So so yeah, the the threat is very real, and the fear is completely justified. But what we can do is just first of all is take precautions. That's the least we can do to minimize the risk. For instance, like when we are riding a bike, we wear helmet because we cannot control the accident, but we can definitely control our response or the risk. So that's what precautions are doing. Okay, is is that clear? Okay, so I'll start with a few actionable steps from the mental health perspective. The first to be about mindful about your thoughts. Now it's not very easy when it comes to being mindful of what you're thinking, but even if you manage to catch you're feeling anxiety about and manage to catch yourself thinking a negative thought about the coronavirus or anything like that, it's completely fine. You have made you have made progress. The goal is to, when you become mindful, it's easy to identify the thinking errors that you make. Okay, so thinking errors are technical. So I'll explain the biggest three cognitive distortions that we make when we are faced with, or I did when I faced with health anxiety. So the first is jumping to conclusions. Okay, so jumping to conclusions basically means, like, for instance, if I have like a pain in the left side of my chest, then I definitely conclude that I have a heart disease. Okay. The second is catastrophizing. It's kind of the same thing. Like, you see something stimulus and you completely imagine the worst. Okay. And the third is emotional reasoning. Which means that just because I'm feeling something, it must be true, right? So, for instance, in terms of coronavirus, if I'm coughing, like I feel I have contacted coronavirus, that means I have coronavirus, which in reality is not true. So to avoid those, I mean, if you are able to spot those cognitive distortions, it's the halfway there. You just have to flip your thinking process on their head. So I mean, you know what to do, because in the facts, I mean, the chances of getting, like, even if you get the, like, even if you have contact the coronavirus, the chances are pretty, I mean, of you will survive it. I mean, it's not that
Sure.
if you see the stats, it's the greatest 2%. Of course, but it's. I mean, don't freak out. It's the least I can say.
Yep.
The second is stop. You should avoid, indulging into reassurance-seeking behaviors. What that means is like you will try to call. You will often check your temperature to see if you have fever. Okay. So these things are not helpful. It will just again trigger those same downward spiral of thoughts where you you get stuck in that loop where you keep thinking the same cycle of thoughts. The third is it's the most common thing that people are doing, that don't Google your symptoms. WebMD and most of these websites feed off of your cognitive confirmation bias, which means that whatever you think or whatever you think, you tend to find those things out. So that's what these
right.
Then be mindful about the news you consume or content you consume in general. Of course, WhatsApp rumors are it's a big thing that we have. It's a big challenge that we need to be careful about. Then there is also on social media in general, there is a lot of stuff that is there are a lot of videos. Like yesterday I saw a video of a Saudi doctor coming home, and he started crying in front of his kid. So I mean, although it is kind of a downer, so I mean, if you think it is affecting your health, I'd recommend you stay away from it, at least in the short term, because your mental health should be your biggest priority, and nothing else should come in between, right?
Yep.
And along with rumors, there is a lot of conspiracy theories as well, as to how the disease started. And I mean, if you have seen David Icke's talk, I mean, there are a lot of weird things that are going to come out, and that will keep coming out. So I mean, just trust the trusted, credible sources such as WHO and whatever the government is communicating. And yeah, the last is just thoughts are just thoughts; they are not facts. Okay, I mean, it what happens when mental anxiety kicks in is your belief system kind of changes. Okay, so for example, when I think of if I think of I'm a millionaire, I know for a fact that I'm not a millionaire because my belief system uh, is wired in such a way that I know that I'm not a millionaire. But when health anxiety takes over, your belief system changes. So even if you have a minute thought which tends to be negative, you will catastrophize it and imagine the worst. So I definitely recommend that treat thoughts as just thoughts. They are not facts. Facts are facts. And so yeah, I mean, learn to distinguish between those things, right? So if you have to remind yourself that even if a negative thought comes, acknowledge that it's a thought. Don't even bother to label it, because it will again it kind of starts puts you into a guilt trap. So I mean, I'd recommend to stay away from that as well. Just acknowledge the thought, and I think it will help you in the short run. So yeah, and since I'm in social distancing, like everyone is practicing social distancing, that doesn't mean you have to practice social isolation, right? I mean, you can call your friends up and do video conference calls and those things. So yeah, so that's from my side. Yeah.
This is someone who's gone through something like this, and being super mindful about the stuff that he's gone through and sharing it with the world is amazing. I mean, thanks a lot, Indrajeet, and
cheers,
yeah,
cheers.
Kudos to you, man. Yeah,
Thank
cheers.
You.
I have so we have Rohit, who has been very vocal about mindset and how mindsets change, and even during these periods, he's been constantly producing content around that. So Rohit, do you want to kickstart with mindset, maybe related with mindfulness, and even what Indrajeet said?
Yes. So thank you, Pratik, and thank you for sharing that, Indrajeet. And hopefully everyone is safe and isolated at this time. So I'll just give you a little background before I start. So I hope everyone can hear me.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I have been running a marketing agency for about 5 years now, and quite recently I've also started building into different stuff such as health and wellness, more of personal branding, uh, pop culture, and more of into entrepreneurship. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is mindset and positivity, because once I went into that path, I just went deeper into it. I started understanding it more. I started understanding the importance of building it, and started seeing from both the sides of the plane, because from where I was before and after, I started understanding the concept of mindset. So I've been listening and thoughts in the start, and one of the things that I want to focus on here is that we have been like, even on social media, people have been talking a little on a macro basis, and I want to go a little micro, because I see that people have been stressed. People they are scared for their lives. They don't know what to do. They don't know the future. They don't know how to go by every day, because the country and the cities are in a lockdown. One of the things that I have been promoting on a daily basis is that you have to be positive about it. If you are privileged enough that you are at home, then you have to be positive that we are going to get through this, and everything is going to be back to normal again. And another important thing that I have been sharing a lot is, so many people, like majority of the people on this planet, are day to day busy with their work. They don't focus on themselves. They don't focus on their thoughts. They don't focus on their mind. They don't focus on their hobbies. And everything is about work, 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 and work. So either you're 9 to 5 or post that it's all about work. So something that I've been sharing is, if you have been able to stay at home, you have also been given the gift of time, because you can use this time efficiently for yourself. Yes, you can be stressed, because we all are a little bit, but the other alternative is that you have to be positive, because that stress is not going to take you anymore. So now, what do you do to keep yourself busy? The only solution is that you keep working on yourself. You keep working on yourself. You can keep working on your hobbies. You can learn a new skill online. You can start reading books. If you haven't started meditating, that is something that should be done the first thing today itself. Do it for 5 minutes. Start it with 5 minutes, because uh, I won't say that do a 1 hour meditation session and it will be a successful one, because it's a long process. Even I haven't reached that level, but you can start with a 5 minute meditation process and build it from there. But being alone with yourself is one of the best things that you can do.
WHO has been constantly reminding us of the destruction COVID-19 will further cause.
Shubham, is that okay? Let me mute you. I guess it's you. You're okay. Yeah. Sorry, Rohit. Go ahead.
So sorry.
So,
No worries.
problem.
Yeah, no worries.
And one of the biggest things that I say to people is that you need to be grateful. You need to be grateful that you are still alive. You need to be grateful that you are safe, your family is safe, that you're getting food on the table. Just 2 or 3 days back, I went through this meditation process, and I felt so deeply, because I was going through the mind of a doctor, for example, or through the mind of a delivery executive. And I just couldn't fathom the risk they are taking for their lives just to protect others. So when you start getting grateful for these things, and you do it on a daily basis to yourself, you fill yourself with that positivity, that I'm in such a good place, and I'm going to be better when it is normal. And one more thing that I have been noticing on social media, and I've been going a lot of Instagram live, is that this is the first time none of us have seen something like this on a global level. I haven't seen theaters, stadiums, everything getting shut down. So with all of this happening on such a level, there has been some change in people's lives. Everyone had plans, everyone had goals, everyone had their future planned out that this is what I need to do in 5 years, this is what I need to do in 2020. But life taught everyone a lesson that guess what, you have to live in the moment, you have to do everything today because you don't know about it tomorrow. And it doesn't need to be scary. I take it as a positive thing, and I kind of even share it positively that we are planning for the future, but we don't know if there is a future or not. So we need to do that planning for today and live that today. A very small example can be that I wanted to go scuba diving, but right now I'm busy with work. So probably I'll be going in February of 2021. But we don't know if there's a February 2021 or not. So you need
right.
Take that time out and complete your bucket list. Start doing your bucket list. Scuba diving was one of those big examples, but a small example could be reading a book. I wanted to learn a second language. I wanted to learn cooking. I wanted to start doing yoga, for example. These are small things which can bring massive changes to people's lives, and yet a majority of people were postponing them for the future. That today I'll get the time to do so. Today I'll get the time to do so, and it just never happened. And now we have got the time to do so.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rohit.
No, I mean, this is great. I mean, so many tips there from Rohit's whatever small talk in terms of like how little things or little change that we can do can literally change our mindset. I want to get maybe like 30 seconds from Jen. Jen, you recently went on a Vipassana, this thing in Nepal. The mindfulness this thing retreat. So do you want to talk about that a bit in this just to add to this point?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm not sure I have all the time in the world to discuss everything that we learned in Vipassana,
Sure.
but some of the points that were made me really think about some of the lessons that we learned through the meditation that we were doing. And that being, being able to see the reality of a situation instead of projecting your own personal reaction to something. So instead of seeing a situation as potentially good or bad, by not allowing ourselves to react, but to respond without reaction, can help alleviate those symptoms of anxiety or fear, and just seeing things exactly as they are for everybody, not just our own perception of that. And that can help bring us out of this this fear that we're in, or pain or misery that we're experiencing with certain situations. So I know I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. We were talking about the fear and anxiety.
Indrajeet. Yeah, Indrajeet. Yeah.
Yes. He made a lot of good points, but that was something that we experienced by doing our meditations, and that's part of the Vipassana technique, is by paying attention to your body sensations, that you realize that everything is constantly changing. There is no permanence. So these feelings that may arise, whether they're good or they're bad, those too will change, and those too will continue to flow. So if we see them as constantly flowing, constantly changing, and we are okay with that, we go into it knowing this is, maybe we see this as fearful. Okay, that's fearful, or this is scary, or this is good, and then kind of taking ourselves out of that and just seeing it will pass too. So I think that was the biggest thing that correlates to the situation at hand.
Yep. Nice. No, thanks for sharing that experience, Jen.
Yeah, and with all the time in the world that we have now being at home, meditating is a great practice. So if any of you wanted to get into the hobby of meditating, now is a great time to do so.
Right. Absolutely. Great. No, thanks a lot, Jen. So we have one question. I think Tiffany wants to take that up. Tiffany, why don't you review? I mean, just go ahead. But yeah, sorry.
So the question for everybody is, when you have other problems like diabetes or heart disease or any other problems which aren't necessarily COVID-19 related, what technological solutions can be implemented, and or rather, how can we, how can we deal with these diseases right now? Because it's okay, well, I have a pain in my tummy, but I really don't want to go into the hospital because I don't want to get COVID-19 and just make things worse. What do I do? So for people, so there are a couple of concerns right now, and this is to Neha's point earlier, is that policy has been implemented in such a way that we're now in this kind of limbo situation where we're not sure what do we do when sick, or even when we're discharging patients, we're not really sure where to discharge them, if they need to go into rehab or to the skilled nursing facilities. So there are a lot of remote patient monitoring tools that we're implementing. Right now, they're not super subsidized. So the hope is that eventually we can, develop these technologies to be affordable to even rural populations, so we can get it out to them. But there's this really cool, and you guys may enjoy this. This is really cool subdermal kind of diabetes monitor, which you just kind of stick on your skin, and you can just scan it with your phone, and it'll record all your glucose settings. And then there are automated insulin pumps. Yeah, it's really cool. And there are automated insulin pumps that kind of figure out what the glucose level is and then administer it. What do you do, say, if you're having very constricting chest pains and you need to go and COVID-19 is happening? Irrespective of that situation, my clinical opinion is that go to the hospital, because your trade-off is not better. If you have something that's as severe as a stroke or an MI, which is a myocardial infarction, or a heart attack, you need to get yourself into an ER. The ERs are now equipped to segregate patients. So there are, as the disease is progressing, the ERs are better equipped to handle these diseases. So if you are feeling really, really sick, and it's not a question of just monitoring yourself, you should go into the ER and you should be part of the segregated population. I know there is an element of risk taking where that is concerned, but again, it's to be completely frank and bleak, it's not better to sit at home and without any medicines at all. So that would be my answer to that. But there are tons of tech solutions for these diseases, even once COVID kind of settles down a little bit. Remote patient monitoring is actually a really, really favorite topic of mine, especially subsidizing that technology to reach out to the patients, because remote monitoring someone who has a yacht and lives in a massive mansion is pointless. We want to monitor the patients who cannot have access to our care. There are blood pressure monitors. Even our wearable devices now have been, even kid Fitbits are, they're not cheap enough to get into the rural populations yet, but they're cheap enough that they're now at least hitting lower middle class populations as well. So the hope is that we get better and better at making our technology more accessible. But it's, again, I'm going to swing back to my statement of we have to start somewhere. We have to create a tool that works before we can figure out how to make it cheaper. So,
yep, and policy is going to play a very important role in this.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just definitely going to spin back, which is definitely go to the hospital if you have a family member who's feeling, if you can call, nothing like it. That's where, and this is something that I think, I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware of, but in India as well, telehealth systems have been put into place, especially if you live in a more urban metropolitan area, like in Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore, you have access to telehealth as well. So look it up, find out which doctors, find out which doctors in the area are doing telehealth. I went, I did my medical school at Divan in New Bombay, and two of my senior physicians who are now practicing, they are doing telehealth appointments. So try to find a doctor who's doing telehealth appointments, get on a call with them, and have them triage you as soon as possible. But if it gets really bad, call a paramedic or drive yourself straight into the ER to get yourself checked.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good to know information.
Definitely.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Tiffany. Okay, so we've got Soham, Saurabh. Do you want to have quick thoughts, or maybe do a recap? Yogesh is closing the remarks. So before I go to him, I wanted to have Soham and Saurabh talk. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I guess we have been discussing a lot about so many things, and it is interesting. I just got to read Five Bullet Friday by Tim Ferriss, which just came in. So Pratik, this might excite you. There's a nice link which talks about a
Okay.
Stoic's key to peace of mind, Seneca on antidote to anxiety by Maria Popova,
Interesting.
the lady which runs Brain Picker. Her site is amazing.
Yep.
So I think that's a good read. So you may want to put that in the show notes.
Sure.
And also, Airbnb is partnering with hosts to connect with 100,000 healthcare workers and first responders with places to stay. So that's a good news that we all can spread and celebrate. And so this is something which I just got in as Five Bullet Friday. So I thought of sharing that with you. Also, there's a nice hackathon event which is happening, obviously remote, but it's an initiative by MIT. Um, so I'll share that link with you as well. So I have registered for that event. You all can probably take a shot uh, at that hackathon, which is a good exercise to think about this subject and to know more perspectives on the same, uh, all leading to creating some good solutions. And I was also wondering with one question which I haven't really found the answer to is most of the world counters that you see, which are showing the active cases, they are so I see there are three countries which are not affected. I just wanted to know the names. So maybe if you guys
So
can.
there's North Korea, sure. I don't know about the other two countries, but
Yeah.
North Korea
No.
is definitely on that list. Yeah.
No, North Korea could be because they might not be sharing the numbers. So
Yeah, they're just
Yeah,
shooting people who are
potentially.
affected.
so anyway, just to conclude my thing, I'm just sharing few links to Pratik, and maybe you all can access
Okay.
that to uh,
Yep.
to the show notes. And also, I came across a very nice video which talks about the plague that happened 2,000 years ago, which had similar impact or effect on the community, where Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic, is writing about it. So that's a good video saying that this will happen again and this has happened before. So we all know what to do and how to tackle things. So instead of just panicking, we have to just see what it is and take it head on. So thanks a lot, guys, for this
No,
interesting
thanks a lot, Soham.
conversation.
Great,
I just
great
quickly want to
resources.
add
I'll put
to
all those resources
Soham.
there. Yeah.
As you
Abhinav,
mentioned,
yes, go ahead. Sorry.
this has happened in the past and definitely, most certainly, will happen in the future. All we can do is use or leverage our existing technologies to kind of identify it faster and curb it. Uh, but that's only for events that we know. This was clearly a black swan event, if I may. There's another black swan event that is also just as likely to happen. It is in conjunction to climate change and viruses in general. So one of the largest glacier in the world is Tibetan glacier, and it's melting away. What most people don't know about it is there are a lot of ancient viruses which are still frozen there. And essentially, in 1990s, we dug up a lot of those ice samples, and we took them out. We figured out there are still a lot of those frogs. So we essentially figured out there are 28 new species of virus in that ice that we were unaware about entirely. Out of which some of these might not affect us, but there is a high chance that there is a superbug within it, uh, and kind of affects everything. So one of the viruses also affected amoeba, and it essentially killed an amoeba cell entirely, and it was replicating itself at an unprecedented rate in terms of virus. So just a point of caution, like I know we have AI and stuff there, but we technically wouldn't ever be able to train an AI in something that it doesn't know that it has to tackle. So I don't know where that leads us, but this is something that can happen in the near future, like within the same decade itself. So we essentially don't know where we are, or maybe within the century again. I hope we are prepared for it the next time at least, better prepared rather. Yeah.
Great. Pratik?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got disconnected, guys. So yeah, Abhinav was talking about the Black Swan event, right? And I'm, Nassim Taleb, like religiously. He's the writer of the book, The Black Swan, and he recently wrote an article, and I'll share that in the show notes as well, which he's obviously talked about a lot of other things, from economics to business implications and all that. But he points out that this is not a Black Swan event. Okay, let me give you a little background.
We lost you, Pratik.
I think he's going to get the background.
Pratik is up. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back again. Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, I was talking about the Black Swan event, and Nassim actually says that this is not a Black Swan event. Black Swan event is essentially non-predictive, predictive event that happens like from out of nowhere. So something like the 2008 depression, the downturn, 1929 depression, or like 9/11. All those are Black Swan events, basically. And what we are experiencing right now is, he mentions that this is a White Swan event, which is basically a pandemic which is predicted. So it's a predicted pandemic, essentially. So I just wanted to bring that point up. And I'll put that link to the blog post as well as his books. He's an amazing guy. So yeah, sorry.
So would you consider as a future pandemic a Black Swan event, like example, a
No, so
virus
these
that's
are
coming out of
so
ice?
basically. Yeah, so okay, maybe bioterrorism or something like that can be a Black Swan event. So something that is not predicted essentially is a Black Swan event. So that's what it comes down to. Okay, guys. So we are like way off from our original time. So I just wanted to kind of thank everyone. Yogesh, can you quickly do the closing remarks? So yeah.
I think first and foremost, I'd just like to say a big thank you to everyone who's here today and kind of sharing your ideas, thoughts. It all means that we all are worried, but beyond being worried, I think we've all got hope in our hearts, and that hope is what we want to share with the world at this point. Because while there are a lot of these social media posts and the WhatsApp and everything's kind of working to increase the anxiety, we've all got to come together in our own little way to kind of give people the hope that world has seen something like this in the past, and we will always see the future. We've just got to remain calm, composed, and sort of focus on the issue at hand and work as one global family together to solve this. This also means that while we try to flatten the curve by being isolated at the moment, the East will have to share its lessons from what it has learned from the crisis, the early stages of the crisis, with the West, and the West will have to do well to actually open its mind and say, okay, fine, you guys have been there, you guys have seen what has happened, and we want to take those learnings in. And I feel with this crisis and with some of these things happening more often, the world will just become more and more flatter, because we'll all have to now work towards getting rid of some of these things or dealing with them effectively as one family. So if there ever was a hope in despair, maybe it is this, that finally the world will unite, will understand that we're probably tipping the climate balance, so we've all got to work together. We've got to find technology and the innovations that will effectively deal with situations like these. And if we can continue to do that, I think we'd obviously come out of this, but we'll also be able to effectively deal with everything that a future might throw back at us, because humans have survived and humans will survive. So I think just on that note, I also want to kind of take an opportunity to say, I know Tiffany has just dropped off of the call, but everybody who kind of gets up in the morning and works all through the night to help people who are getting to hospitals, and people who man the roads and the police, everybody who's on the front line actually managing this for us so that we can have these lockdown conversations. I just want you all to unite in actually giving them a big round of applause, if you can, with me. Because without them, something like this would just not be possible. Um, and with gratitude, as I think Rohit had said earlier, we just want to say thank you for everything they are doing, so that we can continue these conversations in future. I'll hand that back to you, Pratik, to take it from here.
Mm-hmm. No, thanks a lot. Those are great words that you used, and we need to be thankful to everyone who's on the front line right now and who's helping. They're just essentially making our lives better. So that's how I want to put this. Thanks, guys. We couldn't cover all the topics. This is just part one. Maybe I'll do more of this. Maybe we can have better coordination, time management, and the internet. Obviously, that's like the main prerequisite for doing such live streams. So thanks again for joining in. And I'll be putting all the show notes and information in a blog post. The video will also go up on YouTube. Thanks guys.